Hey, this is Mr. C, and you've turned into 6-4 decimal forms of fractions and mixed numbers. Once you have your name and your date and the title written, we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. Please check your homework. We're moving on in 3, 2, 1. Let's zoom in on the example. Alright, decimal forms of fractions and mixed numbers. How can you write fractions as decimals? Recall that a fraction can represent division of the numerator by the denominator. So write 3/8 and 2 and 5/11 as decimals. So how do we get these as decimals? Here they're represented on a number line of decimals. This is 2 1/2. We see that 5 out of 11 slices would not be quite half of a pizza, so it's short of half. Well, to make 3/8 as a decimal, we would put 8 on the outside, 3 on the inside, bring the decimal up, and divide into it. When it terminates like this, and you would divide it and you get a 0 at the bottom, this is called a terminating decimal because the digits in the quotient, which this is the quotient, end, and there is no remainder. So 3/8 equals 375 thousandths. Meanwhile, 2 and 5/11 right here, we need to think of that as 2 plus 5/11, the whole number plus the fraction. Let's divide the numerator and denominator of the fraction to find the decimal portion of the number. So we put the 11 on the outside, the 5 on the inside, and when you divide it and you do the work like this, you get 4, 5, 4, 5, and if you kept going, it would just keep going 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. So the decimal 0.4545 is a repeating decimal because the digits in the quotient, which are the answer, keep repeating, and they will keep repeating forever. So instead of just working on that problem for the rest of math class, we will put a bar written over the repeating digits, 4, 5. I noticed they put a bar over 4 or 5 like that because those are the numbers that repeat. You don't need to put a bar over all of it because it's just 4 or 5 that repeat. So we want to put the smallest bar on the number. Moving on with a clue word of gray sweatshirt. Here are your vocab notes. I do not have them printed out for you. Please write them in your notes with the word underlined with the definition and an example. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. I want to pay special attention that there's a line over just 6-3 because it goes 6-3, 6-3, 6-3. So there's no need to do it like this because it's just 6-3 that repeats. So here's example 1, and let's zoom in. How can you write decimals as fractions or mixed numbers? Think of this as example. First example for example 1 is to write 28 hundredths as a fraction. Well, I'm thinking this decimal means 28 hundredths. So 28 hundredths equals 28 hundredths. We're trying to make it into a fraction, and we just made it into a fraction. But we know that whenever we make it into a fraction, we need to simplify. We ask ourselves, can I divide 28 and 100 by anything? Well, we could go by 2's because they're even, but I also know that they divide by 4. And when you divide 28 by 4, you get 7. When you divide $1 or 100 by 4, you get 25. I know that from quarters. And then 7 and 25, you cannot simplify that anymore, so making 28 hundredths as a fraction is 7 25ths, starting first at the easier fraction of 28 hundredths. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Alright, let's go to the second portion. This is number 2 of example 1. Write 4 and 125 thousandths as a mixed number. We're going to think of it as split up, so we're going to split the whole number and the decimal, and we know we want to get to a mixed number. So I'm thinking how to read that. That's 4 plus 0.125, and that's the same as 4 and 125 thousandths. This is in the thousandth spot, so we read thousandths. So 4 plus 125 thousandths equals 4 plus 125 divided by 1,000. And so that's our first way to get it into the mixed number. Now we're going to look at this fraction and we're going to ask ourselves, can I simplify? Well, for Mr. C, I don't jump right to 1/8. I know that 125 and 1,000, they both end in 5 or 0, so I can divide by 5. Then I got 25 200ths. Then I know it still ends in 5 or 0, so I can divide by 5 again. That would lead me to 5/40ths, and I notice that they end in 5 or 0 again, so I can do it one more time, leaving me with a final fraction of 1/8. So we're carrying that 1/8 after simplifying. We're carrying that 1/8 over to our whole number 4, and so we have 4 1/8. So 4 and 125 thousandths is 4 1/8. Did I answer my question? Well, we need it as a mixed number. This is a mixed number. It has a whole number and a fraction. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Here's example 2. Please read the directions closely and try to do them. Answers are coming in 3, 2, 1. 1. Alright, I knew to put this over 100 because I read this as 2 and 75 hundredths, 2 and 75 hundredths. I know I can simplify this. I knew that this ended in 5 and this ended in 0. I can divide that by 5. I got 15 twentieths. Still ended in 5 or 0. Divided by 5 over 5 again. 3/4, 2 and 3/4. Alright, so as I was making this into a decimal, I noticed that 9 does not go into 5, 0. 9 goes into 55 times. 9 times 5 is 45, and then I get 5, and then I bring down the 0, and I got 50 again, which is exactly the same thing. And I'm noticing a trend of repeating 5s, and it's just going to be 5, 5, 5, 5, and it's going to go on forever. And I noticed that pretty quick, because I saw 50, and I saw 50 again. So therefore, I'm wondering what I should put a line over. Well, I only need a line over 1 5 because the 5 is going to keep repeating. So my answer would be 4, just like that, 4.5 repeating 5. I'm wondering if I answered my question here. Is that a decimal? Yes, it is. Moving on in 3, 2, 1. Here's independent or partners practice. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And make sure you look at the directions to know what you should be doing. The answers are coming in 3, 2, 1. For number 1, as you divide, you'll notice that 0, 9, 0, 9 will keep repeating. Therefore, I put a line over 0, 9. So that is my answer right there. Moving on to number 2. Looking at number 2, as I was dividing, I saw that 3 goes into 4 once. 3 times 1 is 3. I subtracted, I brought down the 0, I have 10. 3 divides into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. I got 1, I brought down the 0, and I'm noticing a trend. That was where I noticed the trend. 10 and 10. This is going to start repeating, and I'm going to start getting a bunch of 3s. So, because it's just a 3 that repeats, my answer is 1.3 with a line over it like that. Moving on to number 3. For number 3, I knew that I could divide these by 25. So I just acted like this said $3.75 and this said $10. So I thought, how many quarters, 25 cents, are in $3.25? So I counted up. I know that $1 has 4, and then another dollar, and then another dollar. That's $3. 75 cents is 3. So I got 8 plus 4, that's 12, plus 3 is 15. And then I divided, and I knew that there were 40 quarters in 1,000. Dividing that further by 5, then I got 3/8. On to number 4. There's your answer for number 4. Simplifying, dividing both by 25. You could also divide by 5 over 5 multiple times, and you'd get the same answer of 1/4. Thank you very much for watching, and at this time, please choose of these 3 options which one you would like to do. Remember, the Khan Academy link is under this video below. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget, you're awesome. Awesome. Still awesome.